The LaFerrari carries with it perhaps the greatest weight of expectation of any car. You see, it's supposed to be the greatest, fastest, most exciting machine made by, well, the very best of the best. And even then, it's hard to digest just how much technology and performance Ferrari has chucked at the Enzo's replacement. The carbon tub is not only stronger and lighter, but narrower. The base design allows a smaller frontal area for better aerodynamics, and the driver and passengers sit directly onto the tub itself for a better connection. There's no conventional seat. The cabin is bare but expensive. Everything is carbon and most of it is recognisably Ferrari. The dash is all electronic. The steering wheel, for some reason, is square. The 6.3-litre V12 runs 800 horsepower and is supported by a 163 horsepower electric motor, all of which hits the surface through the rear wheels and a dual-clutch transmission. The dry weight is a little over 1,300 kilograms. The brakes are monster carbon Brembos which also offer energy recuperation. Ferrari claims a 0 to 186 time of 15 seconds, which is faster than the McLaren P1. The price? $1.69 million, and yes, they're all sold.
And like that, he was sitting in a LaFerrari. Oh. Yeah, I'm grinning a bit here. Oh wow, look, you pull this lever and the pedal box comes back to meet you. How cool is that? That's just awesome.
And,
choices for the brake, do you?
Yeah, as usual. And this is much longer, obviously, because it's more to Formula One and more racing.
Yeah.
And this has a big advantage in terms of weight distribution as well, not only in driving position. This is the name of the project. Before calling LaFerrari, for me it was F150 for 2 years and a half.
I think this is a nicer name.
I like to. For me,
I'm not saying anything. Shut the door down. Oh, quite cosy. Oh yes. Right, turn the key on, see what happens. Here we go then. Raffaele's been quite insistent there, and I can understand why, to tell me that the car is not just a circuit car. It's not all about being the fastest on track. It's a usable road car. Well, initial thoughts. Transmission. Enzo, eat your heart out. Just stick it in drive. It's a double clutch gearbox, smoothing the shifts beautifully. Just gone down 2 gears then. We've not jolted at all. Ride feels really quite compliant at low speed. Gone over a few lumps and bumps. I'm looking at a Fiat 500L in front of me, and I'm resisting the urge to be sick all over the dashboard. I never quite know how to approach cars like this on the road. On the one hand, you could argue that the performance of the car is so extreme that it doesn't really matter how it performs on the road, because there is no public road really where you can explore it. You go to the Autobahn and go straight and fast, but to actually use the handling and the full potential of it, you just can't do it on the public road. On the other hand, if you are one of the lucky 499 that gets to own one of these, where are you realistically going to use it? You have to use it on the street, don't you? So it has to be optimized for the road and usable. And I have to say, wow, after just a few minutes of driving it, you get in, just like you do in an F12, there's the damper button, you hit that, bumpy road comes up, everything softens up. I mean, it feels to me just as supple as a 458 on bumpy roads. You don't get any massive crashes. Obviously the carbon tub normally is a kind of resonant nightmare that causes all sorts of NVH issues, but not in this. It's, listen to us, you know, we're cruising along at 45 miles an hour, but the massive leap on from something like an Enzo and that generation, the last generation of hypercars, is definitely the transmission. Double clutch transmission, leave it in drive and just poodle around. You're not jerking about and having to manage revs. Double-edged sword. Does that mean it's not an event? I mean, think of something like a Carrera GT. Well, that car's a real pain to get off the line because of the clutch. It's got a manual gearbox, so even at low speed you're busy and doing stuff. In this, you're not really that busy. I suppose you have so little distraction. You can admire the beautiful electronic dashboard, the trim, the slightly ropey USB connector down there, which I'm sure is on page 392 of the Demon Tweaks catalogue. And the fact that the cabin, despite all of this effort to narrow the frontal area and get rid of some of that glass so it's more efficient through the air, there's plenty of room. No, I think it's mega. I really do. I really admire the fact that you can take all of this performance and such a singular design brief and end up with something that on the road is, you know, so usable. So first run on the road, what's it going to be like? Lively is the word. Throttle response is just different to anything else I've driven, really. It's absolutely immediate. Car feels very pointy indeed, very pointy. Brakes take some adjustment. It'll oversteer when you want it to. Oh, dearie me. You have to watch yourself, and this is a very bumpy road, but it's got some suppleness to it. The front axle grip is mega. You just turn in. Initially, my head is just saying this feels like a really fast 458. Dead exciting, dead exciting as well. Great noise, and you can stay a gear higher if you want. There's so much torque. I'm telling myself I need to be down in second for a lot of these hairpins, but I don't. I could just stay in third if I want to. Yes. Okay, I think that confirms that there's only so much I can tell you about this car on the road. It's that much to take in. We probably need to go to a circuit. Let's go to a circuit. And as luck would have it, Ferrari has its own test track called Fiorano. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go and drive that now in a manner that's completely incompatible with maintaining the tread depth on a Pirelli P0 Corsa. This steering wheel says Fernando Alonso. This project was called the F150 originally. I quite like the name. I think I prefer it to LaFerrari. Having spent a bit of time on the road and now done some laps in Fiorano just to get my head round the car, I think right at this moment the only thing I don't really like about the LaFerrari is the name LaFerrari. Other than that, that's got 800 horsepower, that thing. 800 horsepower. Its internals are very similar to those of an F12. Capacity, crank, pistons, all very similar. And then they bolt some electricity onto it to give it 963 horsepower and, they quote, more than 663 foot-pounds of torque from virtually zip. They showed us a load of graphs last night in terms of torque, response and delivery timings compared to an F12, which is a car that feels like it has immediate torque and power delivery. And it made the F12 look like it was either heavily turbocharged or asleep. This thing's light as well. They've done so much to make it a small package that the dry weight is just 1,300, and even wet with fluids it's 1,414. And when you see that massive powertrain packaged together, you just can't quite believe they've made it so light. Anyhow, I know it's a bit predictable driving it on the circuit, but this is so fast that really I can't do it anywhere else. Coming up over the bridge now, and purely for your benefit, I'm going to give it the full potatoes. Okay, so I'm in CT mode. That means I've got a little bit of traction control assistance. Get a load of that! How good does that sound? The front axle grip is magnificent. It just turns. You have to manage it on the exit a bit and then just keep piling on the numbers. Pull a paddle, shifts are massively fast. All right. Braking performance is remarkable. Of course, this has regenerative braking, whereas the P1 doesn't. Nearly 9,000 RPM. I can't really tell you how good it feels. What's remarkable is the playfulness. It's got that kind of lovely 458 adjustability to it. If I go into this corner a bit too fast, trim the throttle, back axle just comes around to meet me. It's not horrible and messy. It's just controlled, brilliantly capable, and also hugely enjoyable. It's doing a jump there. I've never driven a car around here that actually will do a jump there before. Grip is lovely. It's so well balanced front to rear. It's a P0 Corsa that's completely unique to the car. Braking performance. Well, I'm really surprised at how little corruption there is from the fact that it's generating electricity under brakes. The pedal is very firm, very little sneeze factor at the top. You just get into the braking performance, smash it on, and it'll let you trail brake as well. Dearie me. And I like the integration of the systems. There's so much going on. I don't need a DRS button and a boost button, all that stuff. I just want to get on and manage the thing. Down this straight now. Nearly 9,000 there. Wowzers. Let me just slow down for a minute and tell you just how different that feels to anything else other than a P1. These two cars are now in a class of 2. Purely because of the way they just extract performance at any point in the rev range. We've got electricity working from zip, and the moment you come out of a turn, it just goes. So you have torque, 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 and then the power takes over. And I suppose I have to draw comparisons with the P1. It's undeniable that this normally aspirated V12, when it gets going at the top end, is a more enjoyable thing than the P1's motor. That noise and the sense of it just being utterly free and revvy. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. It feels like a really, really preposterously fast 458. I mean, its driving and handling characteristics, it's your characteristics, what it does when it breaks away, they're exactly the same to me, or very similar to those of a 458. I mean, how do you do that with so much power? Anyhow, I mentioned what happens when it breaks away. I think we probably ought to have a little go at that now, don't you? Okay. To start with, you're intimidated because you just can't get your head around the numbers producing a chassis that could be anything other than terrifying. But the reality is, it actually kind of wants to play. You can just put little angles in like that, or you can go for the big hooligan slide. It'll do them all. It'll do them all. Yes! Tell you what, the boys that make cars like this, they're clever. They're clever. That's 960 horsepower, fully lit, and that's 9,000 RPM, and that's 240, 250. Oh yes. It's just a proper thing. Wow, wow, wow. I want to do this for days. For days.